Guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is the case of Amy Bradley. She went missing in, well, a long time ago now, off of a cruise, and nobody knows what's happened to her, and you know, it's a pretty strange one, so let's jump right in. Amy Lynn Bradley was born on the 12th of May in 1974 in America to parents Ron and Ivor. She also had a younger brother called Brad. Now, she was a resident of Virginia, and she went to Longwood University, graduating with a degree in physical education. She was an excellent sort of all-rounder when it came to physical activities. She was a lifeguard at one point, so she was excellent at swimming. She had really good swimming abilities. She also loved to play basketball, and she ended up getting a scholarship for this, and lots of people wanted her under this scholarship, but she chose one that was close to her parents' house because she was very close to her family. Amy was very close with her parents and her brother Brad, and their relationship was described as them like being like best friends, because they were that close. Now, Amy was 23 at the time of this occurring, and I think Brad was 20 or 21, so he's like 2-3 years younger than Amy. But like I said, they had a fantastic relationship. So we're gonna go to 1998, sorry, Virginia, and basically Amy's dad has just won like this cruise from where he works, this sales cruise. So it was to do with work, but him and his wife got sort of the cruise tickets paid for them. And so they decided that they were going to invite their children, and obviously they would cover the cost of their children's tickets. So they invited Amy and Brad, and they wanted to make a really fantastic holiday out of it, like a really nice once-in-a-lifetime cruise. They were going to go to Aruba, amongst other places. And when they told Amy about it, Amy was a bit apprehensive at first, because even though she was a fantastic swimmer, she was terrified of the ocean, and she was kind of terrified of different ways of traveling, like ocean, flying, things like that. Anyway, it gave her a lot of anxiety, and just the depths of the ocean really terrified her, just like it does like a lot of people. So she was very much and ahhing as to whether to actually go. Eventually, she decided that she was going to go. But she made plans for, you know, when she got back, she was going to adopt. I think she already had one French bulldog, or one bulldog, and she was going to adopt another when she got back. She just moved into an apartment, and she had all of these things going for her. So she had all these plans for when she got back. And she actually started to get really excited about going. She went on the tanning beds and tried to get herself really brown for going on this trip, despite being apprehensive at first. Amy and Brad ended up getting a flight, and they were going to leave from Puerto Rico, and obviously the parents were leaving separately just because it was all paid for separately. And Amy also wrote a postcard to a friend for when she got back. Hi, this is Lucifer. Yeah, so she wrote a postcard to when she got back, and she wrote, I'm just gonna look over there so I don't get it right. Hey girl, it's gorgeous here. We leave for Aruba tomorrow. I'll be home Saturday at 10. And the cruise that they were going on the boat was called Rhapsody of the Seas. And it was humongous. It was like 11 stories wide, just enormous, 3,000 people on it, countless staff, like coming up to 800 staff members, I think. And they departed on the 24th of March in 1998. So first off, they went to Aruba. They spent the day there. They had a picture taken, which is a lovely family photo that they did. They went shopping. They just really enjoyed themselves. Then they got back on the boat, and off the boat set again. There was this party going on, so they all got ready and went out for this party. And there were some like boat photographers hanging around, and they were taking photos of everyone. And then they took some really nice ones of Amy and the family and Brad and things like that. And it's one of those deals where you can buy them later if you really like them, and they put them up, sort of thing. So they would be sorted out later. They all had a really fun day. I believe Brad and Amy went to the casino at some point. Her parents spent some time with, obviously, like I said, it was work related for her father. So he spent some time with his work. I don't know if it was his boss or his work colleague or something along those lines. But yeah, they spent some time together. They enjoyed lunch. They did. Brad and Amy went to a limbo disco thing, and Brad ended up winning it. So he was really chuffed about that. Oh, on one occasion as well, whilst Amy wasn't actually with her mum, one of the crew members came up to them and asked where Amy was, and they said why, and then they said, well, the crew want to take her out to this bar or something like that. So they were like, well, she's with her brother. Anyway, when Amy came back, her mum basically said to her, you know, the crew were looking for you, and Amy was like, why? And then they told her what they said, and she basically told her children that she would appreciate it. She didn't know these people, that if they stayed on the boat and they wouldn't go off and go to this club, which Amy agreed. Amy didn't want to do that. She didn't know them anyway. So that was that. But she was getting a lot of attention off people in the crew and things like that, especially when she dressed up for, like, really fancy for this party. Later on, when they came to look at these photos to possibly buy them, every single photo that included Amy was gone. Like, this is why he's called Lucifer. Just saying. Yeah, there wasn't a single photo of Amy there. They were all gone. And the guy who put them up was like, well, I put them all out. And it was very, very strange. But yeah, that's just another strange aspect of this case. I also want to introduce, there was a band on the ship playing, and some of the band members were making a fuss of Amy as well. One of them, his name was Alistair Douglas, and he spent a lot of time with Amy. And later on they went out partying, the whole family, and her parents, ouch, decided to go back to the room because it was like 1 a.m. They decided to go back to the room, said goodbye to the kids, and off they went. And there was video taken of Amy and Alistair actually dancing together and things like that. At some point during the night, well, early hours in the morning, about 2:45 a.m., I think her father woke up, and Ron saw that his children hadn't come back yet, so he's thinking, oh, well, they're probably just still having a good time. So he goes out to check on them, and he sees Brad dancing with a load of girls on the first floor and Amy on the second floor dancing with some guys. And so, content that they were just still having fun, he went back to his room again. Brad said that he was going to go back to the room. This was like getting on for 3:45 in the morning. And Amy, so he did so, and then Amy followed shortly behind. I've heard that it was 5 minutes, I've heard that it was 15 minutes, so I don't know, but she wasn't that far behind him, basically. And then they went out onto the balcony that is private for their room, I believe, from what I understand. And they were just out there chatting. Amy smoked, so she was having a cigarette and things like that, and they were chatting about the night and how much fun that they'd had and what they were going to do tomorrow, that they were going to go jet skiing and things like that. I believe they were going to Kherson next. I probably pronounced that wrong. But that is what they were planning on doing. So Brad said he's going to go back in. He said that he loved her. And then he went to bed. Amy basically said that she wouldn't be too long behind him. And that was sad to be the last time that Brad ever saw her again. Not that he knew at the time. At about 5:30 in the morning, Ron woke up again. And he said that he saw Amy's legs sticking out from on the balcony of the deck chair. So he knew that she was still out there, and that he could see, like, cigarettes next to her and things like that. So he figured she's probably just fallen asleep out there. You know, what's the point of getting up? They had an early start anyway. I believe they were planning on getting up at, like, 6 or just after to get an early start in the day. So he goes back to sleep for, like, 30 minutes. Then when he wakes up, in that short space of time, Amy has gone. She has taken her lighter and cigarettes. She'd also changed her clothes and was now in jeans and a different t-shirt. But she didn't take any shoes with her, so wherever she went, you know, he's thinking she's not planning on being long. So he goes out to look for her. And initially not really worried, thinking maybe she's gone up for some breakfast, for some fresh air, for a cigarette, who knows. He's probably going to find her up on the deck. But he ended up looking around the entire boat for an hour, and he couldn't find her anywhere. So he is panicking at this point. He goes back to his room, wakes up his wife, tells Brad that Amy's missing and he can't find her anywhere. Can you imagine going on a holiday and just the sheer panic of something like that happening. It's horrific. It was also said as well that Amy was very much a person that would leave a note to tell, you know, her family that she had gone out, and they looked around for a note and there was just nothing. Ivor actually said that when she took one look at her husband, she knew something was very wrong because of how frantic and distraught he was. He didn't even look like himself. So that's how worried he was. Anyway, they decide to go to the captain and speak to him and tell them that, you know, their daughter's missing. Now, the boat had actually pulled up to the port about 30 minutes before all this happening, and they were getting ready to let all the passengers, well, what's it, on board? You know what I mean. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Get off the boat. So the Bradley family said, please, our daughter's missing, can you prevent everyone from getting off? And the captain is like, nope, everyone has to leave. So he opens up those doors and off everyone gets, all 3,000 people, which really annoyed the Bradley family. Of course it did, and it's understandable. Their daughter is missing. They expected the captain to be like, okay, this is an emergency. Do not let anyone off, and let's try and find Amy. Because then at least, if they didn't let anyone off and searched the boat from top to bottom, not missing any little nook or cranny, they would know. So they would either find her on the boat, or they would know that maybe she went overboard or something like that. You know, something horrible had happened to her. Sorry, I'm just making sure the cat hasn't stopped my recording. So yeah, but no, didn't do that. Lucifer, please. Please, can you stop? I'm busy, buddy. I'm busy. So yeah, he just let everyone off. Then they said that they would search the boat. They apparently searched it, every nook and cranny, for 12 hours, I think it said, till 5 p.m. And they stopped at 5 p.m. and said, Amy's not on here, we can't find her. That's it, she must have gone off. Or she must have fallen off or jumped off. But the family said, hell no, she wouldn't have jumped off. And as I told you before, she was afraid of, like, the ocean. Earlier on in the trip, Brad had asked her to come and look at the views over the side, and she wouldn't go near the sides because she said it's too high and she was too scared of, like, going near the edge. So it was very unlikely that she had gone near the edge to be able to fall off, basically. So the captain also refused to send out an alarm about Amy because he didn't want to worry passengers. They did send out one thing over the God, the words are hard for me today, over the tannoys, I guess, asking Amy Bradley to come to the office, but that was it. They didn't tell anybody that she was missing, and because because they didn't want to alert anyone, like worry anyone, which is really annoying when you're on the receiving end. That's your child and they won't do anything. They don't want to cause anyone any alarm. Then something strange happened as well. Alistair, who I told you about before, that was hanging out with Amy and was caught dancing with Amy, actually went up to Brad and said, hey man, I'm sorry to hear about your sister. Which Brad thought was very strange because at that point, nobody knew about her. Like I said, they hadn't put a tannoy out over the system. Only that they wanted her to come to the office. So, nobody knew about Amy. So how did Alistair know? That's very, very odd. Especially if you ask me. Somebody did actually come forward as well and say that they had seen Amy going up to the disco about 5:30 a.m. that morning with Alistair Douglas. But yeah, don't know about that one. Going back to the boat, like I said, they said that they'd searched every aspect of it. So they decided that because Amy was no longer on the boat, that she must have gotten off and that her family should get off and search for her there. Because the boat was like leaving in 4 hours, so they had 4 hours to look for her. Whilst they were off, they rang the FBI, but the FBI wouldn't be able to get there for 24 hours. They looked for Amy. They couldn't find anything. The authorities did do land searches, boat searches, everything searches you could think of. And you've got to bear in mind as well, in that half an hour space of when Amy actually went missing, from when her dad saw her to when he woke up, they were close to land at that point. They were close to to the destination and were, you know, ready to dock to let everyone off. So even if Amy had fallen off or anything like that, they would have found some evidence of that. And when they did the water searches, but they found nothing. And then the boat left without them because they stayed behind and continued to search for her on land, and the boat just carried on. When the FBI eventually got there, they told the family that they needed to go back on the boat. So they flew to the next stop and got on, but because it's a boat and it's traveling a cruise ship and it's traveling through all these different regions, they don't necessarily have to follow one set of rules. And so the family actually had to ask the boat if they would give permission for the FBI to come on board. They could have said no, which is very strange to me. It was very unregulated then, I guess, on cruise ships and safety of people. I guess they didn't really care about it. They did allow 2 FBI agents to come on board, and this is when they brought dogs and had a search around, because they did a full search of everything. Because apparently, before that, guess what? Even though they said they'd done a full search, they apparently hadn't. They didn't even look in people's private rooms or anything. So, yeah, go figure. But the FBI did a full, thorough search of everywhere and everything, and sadly they didn't find anything. So the fact that everyone kept searching, eventually the Bradley family did have to go home, but they would continue to put her name in the media, put up a reward. You know, they really tried to keep Amy's, like, at the forefront of everyone's mind so that she wouldn't be forgotten, and that if anybody knew anything, they would come forward. There were lots of people that would come forward and say that they'd seen Amy as well. There was a driver who said that he had seen Amy coming off the boat in Puerto Rico, and that she was being forced off the boat by a man and into a car. But that was 4 days after her disappearance, and that, I don't know, that doesn't make much sense to me, because the FBI did a thorough search of the boat. So where was she? Unless somehow they'd gotten her off the boat and then the FBI searched it. I don't know the content, like the details of that, whether that was possible or not, and then brought her back on the boat. I have no idea. This tip was given to the FBI, and apparently the Bradleys then found out that the FBI didn't even follow it up and did nothing with it, which really annoyed them, and I don't blame them for that. There was also another guy who came forward who was doing some scuba diving lessons, and he said that he was 2 feet away from a woman that he said was 100% Amy. He saw her on the beach walking with 2 men very close behind her. As soon as she heard him speaking English to his friend, she turned and was staring at him and making her way towards him. He said that these guys were flanking her, and that eventually one of the guys got in front of his face and basically told him to back off, and sort of pushed, I guess, her away from them. He mentioned, so I have actually forgot to mention this entire time, Amy had quite a few tattoos. She had like a Tasmanian devil on, I think it was the left shoulder. Either way, it was one of her shoulders, but I think it was the left one. Spinning like a ball or something like that. And she also had a symbol on her ankle. She had a tattoo on her belly like a snake or something, or a lizard. And then she had another tattoo as well. So she had these distinctive tattoos, and he said that he had seen the Tasmanian devil one and the one on her ankle, and he was certain that it was Amy. Now, you've got to think as well, there's a lot of speculation as to whether Amy was kidnapped and taken into trafficking. And that is one of the, like, leading theories. Some people say that that's not going to be the case. But yeah, that's one of the leading theories. Like, was she taken off and trafficked somewhere? Is that why her photos went missing? Maybe they did that to try and sell her, essentially. The family were trying everything that they could, and the FBI, they decided they weren't really doing very much, so they ended up getting help themselves, which was in the form of a man called Frank James. He said that he knew where Amy was, he'd found her, he knew where she was, he'd need a lot of money to get her out, and blah, blah, blah. They ended up paying him a lot of money, like $250K, a lot of money. And it turns out that he'd set everything up. He was just having a really long holiday on their money, and he had paid some actors to, because he sent them proof. He sent them a photo of Amy with her tattoo on her leg and her shoulder, dressed like Amy would. So they thought it was legit, and that's why they paid him, but it wasn't. He'd set up an actor and gave her fake tattoos, an actress and an actor. And yeah, it was just horrific. Like, I don't even know how anyone could be so low as to do things like that. But I guess there's a lot of low people in the world, so yeah, there you go. And he did get done for that and was told to repay the money that he spent. I don't think he ever did, but you know, he's supposed to. There was a couple of other sightings. One naval officer came back, I think it was about 2 years or something after. Years down the line after he actually saw it. He said that he went to a brothel because he didn't want to get in trouble. You're not supposed to go to a brothel. So he went to one, and there was a woman there who introduced herself as Amy, and that she said, "My name is Amy Bradley, please tell someone." Again, he didn't tell anyone. This was 2 years later when they went to look into this brothel. It had actually burnt down by a fire, so all that was gone. There also was a photo that was sent off of this website that was to do with working under that line, and they were convinced that it was Amy. Now, her mum said it looks like a very tormented Amy, but they're pretty sure that it is her. And they tried to track the IP address and the website, but they weren't able to do that. And basically that was it. The FBI released another video in 2017 of Amy Bradley. They didn't really put any new information. I believe there was updated not photos, you know, like the sketches to say what she might actually look like now. But it's so heartbreaking for her family and how close they were, and how they went on a holiday on a cruise ship, and like a couple days in, the daughter just vanished and they don't know what happened to her and have never seen her since. It is just beyond belief. I believe security and things on cruise ships has, you know, improved a lot since then, but it's just so heartbreaking that that wasn't around for when Amy was on there. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on it. Please let me know in the comments below. There are other theories and things, and I would love to know if those are of your opinion. But yeah, that is the end of this case. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.